and welcome to my book nook. For those that are new around here, the name's Rainy Barden. I teach elementary music and also love to read all sorts of books, mainly thriller and horror, but I don't limit myself to any one genre. So if you're interested in seeing videos, stay tuned every Sunday and Wednesday. Okay, in today's video, we are on my August wrap-up, which I still can't believe I'm already on my August wrap-up and that we're almost at the end of the year. And I am very close to hitting my reading goal of 100 books for the year. I am at book 87. Or no, I'm at book 86. 86 out of 100. So that's pretty good if you say so myself, especially because last year I only read 33 books in total. But I always like to start off my wrap-up videos by sharing my stats, and then I'm just going to dive into the good, the bad, and the ugly because this month was kind of a blowout. I had half kind of mediocre books and a lot of DNFs, and then some good books. There were some good chunks in the mist, so let's talk about it. Let's get closer to grab my little cup because I'm drinking some soda in my Oh My Gourd Ray Dunn cup because it's fall. And let me grab my phone for my stats. Okay, so here be the stats. If you're not interested in the stats, skip through. You know you can do that. Okay, so the amount of books I read this month was only 9. That is my second lowest month. My lowest month was 8 back in February. I was getting back to school, okay? I was getting back into the jam. 9 books is still pretty good. It is what it is. As for my page count, it was extremely lower than most months, and it was only 2,367 pages, whereas it's normally almost 4,000. I just read a lot of smaller books this month, and that's totally fine. It is what it is as well. As for audio, it was a lower month as well. I only listened to 31.37 hours of audio compared to like 39, 45, 50-ish, so it was just alright. As for reading method, I read 6 mixed media because your girl loves to listen to a book and read it at the same time. I read 1 physically, I read 1 as an ebook, and I read 1 as an audiobook. As for genre types, I read 4 thriller, 4 horror, and 1 romance. That's normally what I read. I don't read very much outside of that, but that's what I read. As for book types, I read 5 novels and 4 novellas, so that's why it was a smaller like reading month, like page-wise and everything, because I read a lot of novellas. For the ratings themselves, this is where it was not that great of a month. I had 2 DNFs. I almost had 4, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I had 2 DNFs, 2 2 stars, 2 3 stars, 2 4 stars, and 3 5 stars. So I still had the most 5 stars, but as you can tell, it was like 3s, 2s, and DNFs, and then a couple 4 and 5s, so wasn't the greatest month I've ever had. The age range was all adult books. The years published was from 1839. You can figure out which book that was in a minute. 1 from 2015, 1 from 2018, 1 from 2019, and 5 from 2022. I'm still really prioritizing my 2022 releases. And then it's methods of acquiring. I owned 7 of them because I love to own the books that I have. I borrowed 1 specifically from Libby, and I borrowed 1 from the library. And then I read 8 standalones and 1 beginning of a series. I started Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and I know they're not technically series because each one is going to follow a different character. I think there's going to be 3, but the next one is Astrid Blake, or Astrid Doesn't Fall, and I think that's following her cousin. So it's the start of a series. I'm very sad to say I didn't read a single person of color book this month. And I'm quite ashamed by that. I need to fix that. That is not my best time. Not my best moment. As far as new versus returning authors, I read from 6 new authors and 3 returning. The 3 returning were Ashley Winstead, because I read her newest book, Edgar Allan Poe, and Karen Slaughter, because I read a prequel to Pretty Girls. And those are the stats. So now let's get into books. I'm going to talk about books that I read in a specific vlog, and I'm not going to talk about them as fully as I would have if I'd never talked about them on the channel yet. And then we'll get to books that weren't featured in a vlog, and then we'll wrap this thing up. If you hear the Gator game in the background, it just is what it is. It's game day, and so my husband has to watch, all of football because he's a football fan, and I am not. Okay, so let's first talk about the 2 books that I DNF'd. And 1, I was reading for one of my favorite booktubers, like favorite books vlogs. I was gonna read it because it's one of her favorite YA books, and I couldn't do it. And that was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I tried reading it. I've heard it's really great. And I don't know what everybody's talking about because this book was boring as all heck. This book was boring as all heck, and I just didn't understand the hype around it. I made my sisters both tell me what happens because they had both read it, and I did think that it was really interesting. Like, the ending, and had I kept reading, I could have probably appreciated it, but I just was not invested in any of the characters to even give enough craps to try to continue and see this through. I think I got to like the 12 or 13% mark before I DNF'd this. It just wasn't for me, and that's all that we're going to say about it. The other book that I DNF'd that I do not have in my possession anymore, because you better believe I sold it on Pango and got money back for it, is The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay. I had a feeling I wasn't going to read that because Kayla from Books and Lala absolutely loved it. And most of the things that she absolutely loves, I tend to not love, like My Heart is a Chainsaw and some other books. So I went into this fully aware that I might hate it and still bought it at full price and then still hated it. And I didn't understand what I was reading. And I feel like it's with him and Stephen Graham Jones where it's like I read stuff and I'm like, what did I just read? I can't comprehend it and I feel stupid. And I shouldn't feel stupid while I'm reading books. Because it's not like it was that deep. It was just very meta. And I just was not about it. So I read to like the 30% mark. I tried to give it an old college try. And that was in the vlog, the beginning of my thriller vlog. So you might have caught that. And it was just a dumpster fire and I didn't enjoy it even a little bit. So yeah, those are the two books that I DNF'd. And then let's talk about the other two books that I almost DNF'd after that, which made me think that I was probably going on a slump. And one of them was in my thriller vlog that I just read, and that was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Now before that, I read The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. That was one of my books. That was a very short, like short story, like 30-page short story about a woman that is not a man that comes to visit his friend at her house because she's dying, and he starts to find out the house is haunted and he can't figure out why. And I read The Fall of the House of the Usher, and I didn't understand a lick of what I was reading. I read the entire 30-page thing and went, I don't know what I just read. I don't know if that bodes well for What Moves the Dead right here, which is a modern retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by T. Kingfisher, which I read for Literally Dead, a Literally Dead book club. And so after I read Fall of the House of Usher, which I don't think I rated. In fact, I know I didn't rate it because I was like, I don't know how to rate this because I didn't understand it. And it's Edgar Allan Poe, so I didn't rate that. But after that, I was like, okay, I'm a little hesitant into going into this. But I've heard T. Kingfisher is amazing, so I'm willing to give it a try. And so I was reading it, and I was only listening to it on audio as I was cleaning my house. And I got to like the 25% mark, and I went, I don't think this book is for me. I'm probably going to DNF. I'm just not enjoying it. But it's only like 150 pages. I know I can make it through. So then I was talking to my friends on reading sprints, and they were like, okay, you need to keep going through. You need to persevere. You need to you need to read it with your eyeballs. And that's when it clicked. And it became a 4-star instead of a DNF. I very much enjoyed this once I read it physically. I just needed to see the words in front of me. It was a really great, spooky, creepy read, and she did a really great job of the modern retelling. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, definitely check out that thriller vlog. But this is definitely one of my favorite like inside covers as well. And this has very much a good meaning. There's a good reason for why this rabbit is there. But yeah, I very much enjoyed this. And within that thriller vlog, I also almost DNF'd The Island by Adrienne McKinty. I did not enjoy this book. This was one of my 2 stars for the month, and it was just not very great. It makes me hesitant on wanting to read The Chain, but I'm willing to still give it a try. This was just not for me. It was very out there, and I just couldn't have cared less. So it's about a girl named Heather, and she marries this guy, and his 2 kids don't really like her, but they all go on an island trip together, and they get stranded there, and then they get separated from each other, and then they're getting like kidnapped or held hostage because they almost hit someone and kill one of the tribe members on accident with their car, and so then it's like a fight to survive type situation, and it was just not very good. I didn't like it. I didn't like some stuff that was said about why it was written and in the author's note. Once again, check out the vlog if you want to hear more of my full thoughts about it. But it was just very much overdone. I couldn't care less about anything that was going on in it. And yeah, I am very sad because I was very much anticipating this. And it really let me down. Then also within that reading vlog, which this was one that I very much enjoyed, we read Just Like Mother by Anne Heltzel, and this was a 4-star. I still cannot get over this cover. It is just creepy as all get out, and I am living for it. This one is a cult book. I read 2 cult books this month. I've been reading cult books more lately and learning that I really do enjoy those. That is a trope I very much can get behind. And so this one was about like a fertility and like moms and pregnancy cult, which was a little close to home because I have a baby and all. But this one is about Maeve and Andrea, and they were cousins, and they were part of this cult called the Mothers. They were like kidnapped by these people called the Mothers when they were little, and like it got it got busted and like they moved on with their lives and they never saw each other again. And then like 20 years goes by and they end up finding each other and getting back into each other's lives. And then you find out that one might still be involved with the cult, or the cult never really left them, is what that's about. And so this was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was very predictable though. Like, it's a very standard, like, guessable thriller. So like, if you're looking for one that's gonna like shock you, this is probably not the one for you. Like, I pretty much guessed everything that was going to happen, and it's pretty obvious. But the vibes were really great, and I had a really great time reading this, and it was just very easy to flow. So that's why I didn't give it a 3, even though it was a very standard thriller, because I really did have a good time with this. It just didn't wow me, so I couldn't give it a 5-star. But definitely loved it. It was a good time. And then the last book that I read in that vlog that was undoubtedly my favorite of the entire vlog was The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead, which was another cult book, and she has solidified her place as a top favorite author of mine because I've read all 3 of her books and given them all 5 stars, and so she is simply fabulous. And so this one is very dark. You need to look up every trigger warning that is in the book because it is probably in this one. It is a very, very, very sad, dark book. However, I thought that it had such great like commentary on like patriarchy as a whole, and like how society is shifting, or what society could look like. Honestly, it showed a very scary version of what like our society could look like if we keep going down this route of not allowing women control over their bodies and things like that. And it was really scary. But it reached a lot of good topics. It had a podcast element, which I really enjoy when books have podcasts in it. And it was just very good overall. I shed a lot more light on my thoughts in the thriller vlog, so definitely I will link the vlog under here so that you can check it out in case you are interested and seeing what all my thoughts are. But I had an absolute blast with this. I just love this. I seriously love how she writes. And I love how different it was between In My Dreams I Hold a Knife and this book. Because this book was just like completely different, and I loved it even more. That one was just like a good, campy, feel-good like murder mystery. And this was like a very dark, intense cult thriller. And it was really scary at times and creepy. And there were so many twists in this that I couldn't even keep up with it. And it was very shocking. And I just had the best time reading this. I definitely do not recommend this to everyone though, because of the million triggers in it. Alright, then let's talk about books that were not featured in vlogs. And the first one I'm going to start with is one that I don't own a copy of, that I only listened to on audiobook, and that is Blonde Hair, Blue Eyes by Karen Slaughter. That is the prequel to Pretty Girls, which I read in July. And I gave the prequel 3 stars. It was just kind of like middle of the road for me. So it's about Julie, is that her name? Julie, I believe. Julie is the sister in Pretty Girls that was kidnapped, and the whole story of Pretty Girls is like them trying to find out what happened to their sister. The prequel is not even the story of like, well, it's not the story of what happens to her, it's how she ends up getting kidnapped. Like, it doesn't talk about anything after that. Like, that's the last part of it. And so it's like the couple of weeks and stuff building up to before she gets taken, and sets up the story for Pretty Girls. And I really liked it, and I loved like the sister moments that were in it, and how you got to like see the relationship between her and her 2 sisters, which like really helped, especially since I had already read Pretty Girls. But I just kind of thought that we didn't get to know Julie that well. I thought it was kind of a little too short, not fleshed out as much as I would have liked, and so it was just okay. I do appreciate it and understand why it was made, and I definitely recommend reading Pretty Girls first, because this book will make so much more sense if you read it after. My Pretty Girls copy that I got from the library actually had Blonde Hair, Blue Eyes attached to the end of it, so even they recommend you read that after you read Pretty Girls. But yeah, I had a really good time with it, but it was just 3 stars. I'd still recommend it. Then we have the one romance I read, and oh my gosh, I loved this book so much, and I kept putting it off and just letting the Libby hold die out, and I'm so glad I didn't do that finally. And that is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is one of my favorite romances of the year. It was so good and so spicy. It is a sapphic romance, and I'm totally here for it. So it's about our main girl, Delilah, and how she is a wannabe, like, on the rise, upcoming photographer. And this is not Astrid. Her cousin is Astrid, and her parents died when she was younger, so her aunt took her in, and her aunt is, like, terrible and didn't really want her. And she has her cousin Astrid. And so her and her cousin don't get along very well, and in the beginning of it, she realizes she forgot that she said she would photograph her cousin's wedding, which is in, like, a week or so. And so she has to go back to her hometown where she grew up and see all these people that she didn't care about, because Astrid still lives there with all of her friends, and it's really awkward. And then she ends up hitting on Astrid's best friend, which is Claire, and it's about their romance. And it was so cute. It was extremely steamy. I just loved this. I loved everything about it. I loved the relationship between them. I really loved Claire's relationship with her daughter Ruby. I just loved the way that everything was set up and how they like discussed everything, and how like even when they were having issues, they were able to talk and communicate with one another, because when people cannot communicate with one another, it bothers me to no end. And I just loved this. I loved the audiobook, so definitely get the audiobook if you're interested in it. I cannot wait to read the Astrid whatever her last name is, Doesn't Fall, which I believe comes out in November. This is such a cute romance. If you have not read this yet, do yourself a favor and go read it. I had the best time with this book. It was so fun. All right, I have 2 books left, and we will go with another 2-star that I didn't absolutely love, and that was Dear Laura by Gemma Amor. I read this for a horror novella vlog that will be coming out very soon. And I had heard that this was really good. Sorry, the air just kicked on. I had heard it was really good. I did not see the point of it at all. And Gabby Reed's read it like right before me, and she also didn't see the point in it at all. I just don't get it. So, anyway, this one is about this girl named Laura and her friend Bobby, or her boyfriend Bobby, and one day he got in somebody's car and went missing, and she never saw him again. And a year after that, she got a letter on her birthday that said, from the sky, that said, I know the whereabouts of your friend Bobby, but you have to give me something in return. And it's always something like nasty, like give me a piece of like your underwear, or like this, that, or the other. And every year on her birthday, she gets a note from him, and he gives her more information on where her friend Bobby could be. And this goes on for like a good span of her life, like 20, 30 years. And the whole thing is, I don't understand why she cared. Like, obviously her friend is dead. Like, I don't know. I don't understand. I thought it was very stupid. I hated the end. I honestly don't understand why this book was written. Like, I really don't. I'm sorry. I don't say that lightly. I don't understand why it was written. It was not good. I feel like I wasted my good eyeball of capability in reading this, and it was not good. So, if you're trying to read a good horror novella, this is not it, friends. This is not it. And then finally, we will end with, I think probably my favorite book of the month, is tied with The Last Housewife, but this one was very high up there. And I read this on a whim because my friend Ruth recommended it, and it's like having a bit of a comeback. And reading Riley recommended it too. And that is Any Man by Amber Tamblyn. Which Amber Tamblyn was in the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I didn't realize that was her. She writes a book. So this one is actually different. This one is about a violent serial rapist named Maud, and she hunts for men at bars and online, and like brutally rapes and like attacks them. And so this book is written from the men's perspective, like all of the victims, and it has like poetry, it has radio, TV inserts, it has emails, it has chat rooms, like it is just all this different stuff. And the audiobook is fantastic. If you're going to read this, please listen to the audiobook. This is such a good book. Like, the way these men explain, like, what has happened to them and, like, their thoughts and feelings is, like, so sad and so tragic. Like, I could not stop reading this book. Like, it is just, it is so good. I wish I could find a page that really just lets you know how beautiful this book is. But this book I think it needed to be written and it needed to be read. And it is just a tribute to those who have lived through the nightmare of sexual assault, and asserts how the power of speaking out can change not only the life of survivors, but the world around them. And I 100% agree with this. This book was truly powerful. I'm going to remember this for a very long time, so if you have not read this, I recommend it. It is such a quick read, because literally a lot of the pages are like this, and then there's other pages, like, it depends on, like, what part of the story you're reading. There's even a couple of pictures. Like, it's very, very good. Oh, where's the picture? It's very, very good. I highly recommend it. Please go and read this book. And with that, that is all of the books that I read in August. So like I said, it was kind of a wash. It wasn't the greatest reading month. It wasn't the worst reading month, but I did get some really great novels out of it, such as Any Man and The Last Housewife. So that definitely was good. But I hope that you enjoyed this reading wrap up, and we are going to dive in next week with some other fun videos. I have lots of stuff planned for the September and October months because it's getting to be spooky season, hence my spooky book shirt. And yeah, so I will definitely catch you guys in a video very soon. Bye!